Hello, seventh graders. So this is a video that I'm going to use to walk through the packet that was sent through Teacher Ease and on Canvas for the week of March 30th. So I want to walk through how to do each part of the packet and how you can share your work with me. Um, for this, there's a couple of options so one of the things that you can do when you are doing this work is in the draw section. So if you don't have access to print the work and do that, and copying it to paper is frustrating or challenging, then with draw, you can just write right there on it. So just a reminder, if you need help this week, there's this phone number here. Oops, sorry, I did not mean to use that option. Let me erase that line. I wanted to highlight. There's this phone number here. You can text that phone number. It's not my actual phone number, but any calls or texts through that will get forwarded to my cell phone. So if you need me right away for something, you can text that phone number during this time. Um, Also, this is going to be our last week with Zoom, but on Wednesday we have a Zoom class. So if you're still a little bit confused on what we're doing, you can log on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and we're going to work from there. Starting the week we get back from spring break, we're going to have classes on Canvas. So this will be our last Zoom class, but we're going to do similar stuff on Canvas after that. So we worked with prime factorizations or doing factor trees for quite a while earlier in the year, but it has been a little while. So you can watch this video that I put on there, or if you're watching this video today, just to remind you, when you're doing factor trees, you're taking a composite number, so a number that has multiple factors, choosing any two numbers that make up that number when I multiply them together, and breaking it down until you just get to the prime numbers, so numbers that only one and itself can go into. Then from there, you list them out. So for 24 and 44, they started with two numbers, but you could have started with 2 and 12 or 3 and 8. But we just want to take the numbers. So I know with 6, 2 times 3 is 6. I know with 4, 2 times 2 is 4. So then our prime factorization is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Make sure you're putting your dots in between. Or you could have done 2 to the third power times 3, since there are 1, 2, 3 2's. For 44, we know that 11 is a prime number. Nothing goes into 11 but 1 and 11. So you just have to break down 4 and list them out. For part 2, identifying prime numbers, I felt like this was a little bit more challenging than the last one. But again, if you have your computer open and you just go to the draw section, the highlighter comes in handy. You can put a dot or highlight the ones that are prime numbers. And then I'm going to have the red pen to cross out wrong ones. So I know that all even numbers have 2 as a factor. So one thing you could easily do to start out with is start crossing out all of those even numbers. Because if it's even, the least that can go into it is 2. So then with my highlighter, I'm going to go through the rest of them. 3, the only thing that makes 3 is 1 and 3. So I'm going to highlight 3. And then if I look at a number like 25, I know that 25, because it ends in a 5, that means 5 can go into it. So even though it's an odd number, it's a composite number because 5 times 5 is 25. But if I look at a number like 23, I know 3 doesn't go into it because 3 goes into 21 and 24. I know 5 doesn't go into it because it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. I know 7 doesn't go into it because 7 times 3 is 21 and 7 times 4 is 28. And I know 9 doesn't go into it, so I can highlight 3 because 3 is going to be a prime number. So if you just want to go through the chart and check to see is it a prime number or a composite number, And with the drawing option, you could just mark on the screen to answer those ones. And then for the bottom part for exponents, it's been a little while since we worked with exponents, so I just wanted to remind you how to do an exponent. So like 1 squared, that means 1 times 1, and we know that 1 times 1 is 1. And for 2 squared, that means 2 times 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So for these ones, all you have to do is just fill in the blank on the chart. So for 4 times 4, I know I'm multiplying the number 4, 1, 2 times. So that's 4 squared. And so this one is squaring and this one is cubing. So it goes to the third power. So 1 times 1 is 1, times 1 again is still 1. But 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 now is 8. So for these ones, we're kind of working backwards. So like for this one, I have 9 times 9 times 9. So 9 is my base, 3 is my power, 9 to the third power. And then for bigger ones, it looks like they've already solved, so you just got to write it in. It helps you out. And then we started working on rates towards the end, so I wanted to throw in some rates to remind you since this is going to be a big part. So rates, when we're working with rates, we just want to think of them as fractions. And so remember, when we're dealing with equivalent rates, we want to think of those as equivalent fractions. So if I'm traveling 300 miles in 6 hours, I want to make sure that my miles stays up top and my hours stays down below. I don't want to change that. But now it's asking me, how would I go in 2 hours? So then because our numbers are getting smaller, 6 to 2 is smaller, that means I divide. And remember our rule, whatever you divide to the top, you divide to the bottom. Or whatever you multiply to the top, you multiply to the bottom. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 300 divided by 3, you would just write that there. So for this one, there's 7 pieces of work in 10 minutes. How much do they do in an hour and a half? But if you notice, they changed the minutes on me. So for here, I'm working with 10 minutes with 7 pieces of work. I don't want to change my rate, minutes. So I have to think how many minutes are in an hour, how many minutes are in a half an hour, and add those together. So how many minutes make up 1 hour, plus how many minutes make up half hour, and then I'm going to write that number here. Then the numbers are getting bigger, so I have to figure out what to multiply by. And remember, whatever you multiply to the bottom, you must also multiply to the top. So this week's packet is a little bit shorter than what I sent home last week, but there's still a lot of review and a lot of learning in there. So when you're going through the packet, if you have any questions, make sure you text me, make sure you come to our Zoom meeting. You can post on Canvas your questions. But hopefully this video that I'm about to share on YouTube will help you. Miss you guys. Can't wait to see you soon. Bye.